the founding fathers of British rock and roll. He rose to fame as lead guitarist with The Shadows, but he's now a star solo artist, of course, in his own right. Welcome, Hank Marvin!
Whoa!
Thank you. Thank
what
you.
a
Very
pleasure.
impressive build-up. A founding father.
Hank B. Marvin.
Yes.
I heard you say on the radio the other day to some poor, unfortunate lady who was interviewing you that she said she could, I don't know, I think she'd been sort of thrown into this at the last minute.
She
said, Hank B. Marvin, what does the B stand for? And what did you say to her?
I said Bridget.
But with that terrible deadpan way of saying it, that all guitarists say. John Lennon was the same. He could always say the deadest that, and people would believe it. Bridget.
Yeah, yeah.
Just went.
Well.
In fact, of course, we all know it's Beatrice.
How did you know that?
But she did ask for it, because didn't she? Your new album's Hank Plays Holly, and what did she call it? Hank Plays Hollywood.
Hollywood, yeah, yeah. It's like, well, slip of the tongue, I guess, but it is Hank Plays Holly. Yeah. It's all Buddy Holly songs done instrumentally.
Cracking. It's a cracking album. But did you think, Hank, when you were doing your stuff first time around in the 50s, and when Buddy Holly's stuff was coming out, that people would still be as keen on it and as fond of it, what, 30 years later, 40 years later?
Not really. I think in those days, being about 16, 17, when we got going, the next week was well into the future. You know, we didn't look that far ahead. The business as we understood it, everyone said in rock and roll that it's going to last 2 or 3 years, end of story, and things will get back to normal. Fortunately, they didn't. Things carried on and got bigger and bigger in terms of rock and roll and pop music. So no, in those days, we had no idea of the enormity of things like Holly's material and his influence and how it would last so long, or indeed the success we would have.
Did you ever meet him when he was touring over here?
No, we actually couldn't afford to go and see the show. I was living in London then, and we just about had enough money to starve, and we couldn't afford to go and see the show, which was a great pity. I did, in fact, meet his father in Lubbock, Texas, when we played there. We did the first tour that Cliff and the Shads did in the USA, and we played in Lubbock, which is a tremendous thrill for us, being Buddy's hometown. Interesting little story. In the afternoon on the sound check, I was actually on the stage on my own, just checking my amp, with the Strat and the dark glasses, and this man came in. And now this was almost a year to the day after Buddy's death. And this man came and looked at me very strangely, and he came across the stage and walked up to me, and I found out later it was actually Buddy Holly's father. But he put his arm on my shoulder and he just looked at me, and in a very moving way he said, "Could you get me Cliff's autograph?"
Oh, boom, boom! I thought he was going to put his say, "It's Beatrice, isn't it?" See what I mean about those dry lines?
No,
we did meet him, though, and he was a very nice man, and it was poignant for him to see me with the glasses, the Strat, and obviously it reminded him of Buddy.
Now, when you look back at the kind of music you've made, you've done lots of stuff, lots of, you know, country stuff, country influence stuff, like with Marvin Welch and Farrow, lots of your own solo stuff. What's the type of music that you most enjoy playing? Because I've always sensed the kind of country flavour in your twanging.
Yeah, I think it's just an influence of everything that comes out in my playing. You know, there's not one definite focus on, say, country or anything else. I like to try to put a little bit of country into things, a bit of blues, a little bit of Django Reinhardt, a little bit of even jazz and some things, sort of jazz fusion type things, you know. So all these things sort of meld together and come out in different ways in the music. I don't really see myself as a country player. The influence in my playing is not strong enough to be that. Although I wouldn't mind being a country player, because I have great admiration for country guitarists. Most of them are terrific.
But it's almost the other way around, isn't it? How you have now influenced other people, because you just have to hear a couple of notes of something that you have done, and we know who it is. We know where we are.
Yeah.
We know where we hang. Do you think that's part of the whole longevity thing, really? That
Yep.
it's absolutely you've focused on one style and stuck with it.
Yes, I think that's an important thing in the way that we should be able to recognise a singer's voice, whether it's Pavarotti, Cliff, Tom Jones, or John Lennon, whoever. I think with an instrumentalist, if you can get not only a style but a sound, which, all right, might change subtly over the years, like a singer's voice maturing, if you can get something that's recognisable, it's very important, because there are so many great guitarists around. But unfortunately, some of them are non-recognisable. You can tell one from the other. They're great players, but they haven't got something about them that sets them apart as a stylist or has a particular sound.
Was that a conscious thing, though, Hank? Because I'm a huge
I've never
rock and roll
been conscious in my life.
You're looking fairly chipper today, though. But I remember reading reviews, you know, when I've, you know, not at the time, because I was born in '56, but like people would say Dwayne Eddy. Dwayne's still twanging low, Hank's still twanging high. Did you deliberately go out to find the Marvin sound?
No, it was accidental, really. I was trying to copy the people I admired, who in those days were the early rock and roll players, like Scotty Moore on the Presley records, Cliff Gallup on Gene Vincent, Buddy Holly, people like that, a bit of Django Reinhardt thrown in, all that sort of stuff. And it was a combination of several things. One, trying to emulate those people and probably failing to a degree, but I was fortunate enough to get a Fender Stratocaster guitar with a tremolo on, which Cliff bought me in 1959. And that tremolo on played a very important part in me developing a sound and a style. Because with a tremolo arm, you can, for those who don't know what it is, a little lever attached to the bridge, which is mounted on springs, and you can move the bridge up and down, which alters the pitch of the note. So you can create a vibrato effect, like a singer's voice. Or you can bend the string down, or you can give it a good old wobble, if you can't think of anything else.
Give it a wobble, Hank.
Steady, just be steady.
And I used to do all of those things, incorporate them into my style, and it became something a little different from what everybody else was doing. Plus, an echo box, very important.
Well, we've heard the album. If you haven't, then you're missing out. But you're going to play us a little something, aren't you, Hank?
Well, just a little bit of... I mean, obviously, on the album, everything is studio recorded. I normally do this with a band and electric guitar.
Where's your wobbly arm gone?
It's gone,
hang
mate.
on, here it is.
A little bit of heartbeat. Now, I'm going to throw in a few wrong notes, see if you can guess which ones it is.
Okay.
Oh, no! That's why I was an instrumental artist. Oh, Fandango-y. Oh, Hank, thanks very much. That was fabulous.
That's the test.
Lord,
that
boy.
way without the wobbly arm, you know, if you can do that.
Sorry, what's that? We've got to finish now? Oh. We're going to play a thing which, I say, features Jet playing the bass guitar. It's called Nivram. wasn't that? Thank you, Jet. Did you hear that? He said, welcome back. He owes you some money. What? I don't remember that. He just says, I said, what should we do, Jet? Something else. He said, yeah, let's do it. He said, you've already done Kon-Tiki. I want to do that. And he said, The Frightened City. I said, I don't know if I remember that. He says, neither can I. Thank you very much. Shazam! I'll do Kon-Tiki again if you fancy Kon-Tiki. Yeah.
Sold the notes house.
We've only got time for that. We'll have another crack at Kon-Tiki if you like. I've just played it, so I will remember it. Starts at E, goes in a A. I'll probably play it in B flat, but that's okay. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much. You've been lovely, and it's been a thrill for us to have. It's been a thrill for us too to have Jet up on stage, and I know it's a big thrill for him too to be on stage with me. I prefer booze. I'm not going to answer that. Listen, he said it's 38 years since we played together. And it sounds like it. Listen, what we're going to do for you, we'd like to thank you very much for being such a lovely bunch of people this afternoon, and we've enjoyed being here. And we'd like to play one last tune. That's all we've got time for, unfortunately. And it's a tune which means a lot to Jet and I. It's the first hit we ever had together, apart from Cliff's records, of course. And do you remember what this is called, Jet? Well, can you tell me, because I've forgotten. Yeah, seriously, folks, we'd like to play you the most wonderful pop, well, one of the most wonderful pop instrumentals ever written. A guy called Jerry Lorden wrote it. We had a big hit with it, and we'd like to play you Apache, and thank you very much. ladies and gentlemen, Jet Harris, Hank Marvin. Over there we've got Ben Marvin.
Thank you very much. Please welcome Hank back onto the stage, would you? It's a wonderful movie.
I have to say, Cliff, that was absolutely average.
No, come on, seriously though.
Yes, it was. No, it was fab. In fact, sitting down there with the band, that music reminded me so much of the 60s, and in particular, the great success the Beatles had and the influence they had on pop music.
Well, I mean, it is fantastic what they did, and I must admit, I found them, well, they were very threatening, weren't they?
Oh, yeah, but they weren't always violent, were they?
Well, enough. But listen, do you remember when we first met them?
Yep.
It was backstage in one of these old theatres, a cinema, I think, and there was a long corridor, and as we walked up the corridor, John Lennon stuck his head round the door, and he had glasses on just like yours, and he whipped them off and kind of hid them in his pocket.
That's right. And he turned to you and he said, "Who are you?" Well, he's very short-sighted.
I know. The other week I was... Did you see the Audience With show? Well, now, it's true. Bruce Welch was there, wasn't he? Yeah. Bruce turned up at the show, and typical of Bruce, all his talk was about money. Yeah. So I need you to settle our argument. How much did I actually pay you on that first tour?
On the first tour in 1958, I remember you actually paid us each £12, 10 shillings a week. Which is a fiver more than I'm getting tonight.
Well, I'll tell you what.
What?
Could you possibly do 50p's worth of Apache? And I'll take that because you haven't paid for it.